In today's video, I'm going to show you how to paint a really easy sunset landscape. So I'm going to split this tutorial over two videos. Both will be completely free to watch. And if you're watching this first video on the week it comes out, should be up with the second part next week, but I am taking a little holiday soon, but it'll certainly be the next video. I'm going to take you through 10 basic steps to create a really pretty sunset landscape. This will be a great project to follow along with if you're a beginner, or even if you're more experienced. It's going to show you how to layer and get a really beautiful sunset sky. So let's get started. So we're going to start first by preparing our paper. So let's talk about what I'm going to do today. I'm going to make a sunset and I want a river like this one, but I also want some sort of silhouetted trees. So I've just picked up a few pictures that have either sunsets or trees in, just colours that I might like, and I'm going to sort of make up my own arrangement. This one here, by the way, there's actually a full tutorial available for this one. That's part of my winter landscape series, but I just like the shape of the tree. It'll just help me if I want to draw a tree like that. And then I've got some other sunsetty pictures. Now, these pine trees are not very indicative of the landscape we have in the UK. There's a few places where you get them, but I'm not sure this fits overall, but I did like the colours here. I've got a seascape here, and again, I like the colours. I'm not actually going to put a seascape in mine. And then this one I picked up just because there were some trees that I like. But before I worry about the drawing, which is actually our stage 2, I'm going to think about paper. Now, I've been sent this paper here. This video is not sponsored in any way, and I have not been paid to say anything in particular about this paper. I was also sent some postcards that I put in a recent video, but I haven't tried the actual watercolor block yet. So a lot of people online will be asking how to flatten their watercolor paper once it's gone bumpy. To be honest, by that time, it's a bit late. You should be thinking about this before you start. You either want to use a much heavier paper or a block like this, which will be gummed around the outside, or you want to stretch your paper. If you don't know how to stretch paper, I have a full tutorial. I'll link that in the description of this video. But anyway, I'm going to have a go today at painting on this paper, and I'm quite confident that I'll get a good result because over the years I've been asked by manufacturers to demonstrate on all sorts of papers, and I usually produce something worth looking at. So start off either with a watercolor block or thick paper or stretched paper, and if you're just using a loose sheet of heavy paper, do at least tape it down. We want to minimize any buckling that we get of the paper. So I've taken the wrapping off of the watercolor block because beginners sometimes get in a muddle with a block like this, so I can just show you how it works. They usually come with a sheet of black paper on top to protect them, and so many people go into Facebook groups and say, I thought I was buying paper and I've got this black paper. It's just a top sheet, so we're going to remove that. So if you look at the edge here, I'm hoping that you can see that it's gummed along here and there's a gap here. And what we do there is we paint on our paper, and then when it's finished, we slide a knife in there and cut the paper off of the block. But I'm going to do that first of all to remove this top sheet. Next comes the layout and the drawing. So let's plan our drawing and layout. Now, originally I was going to do a portrait shaped landscape, but to be frank with you, it doesn't fit on camera very well. I will put the name of this paper that I'm using in the video description, all the details about it. I don't generally paint on a watercolor block. There's nothing wrong with them, but they come in a very restricted range of sizes. I prefer to work a little larger, but this is perfect for working on camera, so we'll see what it's like. Now, we have to consider first of all where we want the horizon line. I like this straight one here, but I also quite like these curves. So I'm going to sort of take inspiration from lots of these photos today. And really, if you've got a sunset, you want the focus to be more on the sky, which means I'm inclined to bring the horizon a little lower. A low horizon always makes the most of a sky and gives that big landscape feeling, that big sort of flat landscape feeling. A higher horizon line will give a lot more emphasis to the foreground. So I'm going to take the horizon line photograph here just to get a sort of an idea. So if I wanted a straight line, I could sort of plot it like this. I do think I want some curving, but I just want to give myself a baseline so that it's not too asymmetrical, shall we say. So I think what I'm going to do is take some inspiration from this sort of one here where we have hill that's kind of coming up like this. But I also want to think about getting a river in here. And I think I'll have more of a sort of straight, distant horizon here. I think what I'll try and do is sort of curve the river around from this area here. I don't want it to look like it's going uphill, which it would do if I started it obviously on the top of this hill. Water must lay flat in a landscape. So I think what I want to do is think about having it coming sort of around here. And you always want to get that kind of horizontal feeling to it in places. Now I'm going to be careful not to take the river out of the corner. And I'm not going to do very much drawing at all in this picture. I'm certainly not going to do any drawing in the sky. If there's any pencil marks left in the foreground, it won't really matter. But if they were left in the sky in amongst the clouds and things, it really would be very noticeable. The only other thing I want, I think, is some trees. And I think we'll have sort of, some distant trees up here. Maybe even some distant hills. And then coming on to more of the shaped trees, I'm thinking about this one here as well. I love these silhouetted trees in a sunset. They can be quite nice. It may be a bit distracting if I sort of stick one right in the middle here, but we could have perhaps a tree over here coming up. And again, I'm only going to make sort of the bare bones of these trees, not really put much detail in at all, particularly not where they go over here. Now, what we can do is use this as a repeating motif. So we've got a larger tree here. Let's have perhaps one or two smaller ones over here. And of course, by the side of this river, we'll also have some grasses and things growing. I think that's enough of an outline to get started. Next, we'll choose our colours. Before I even start painting, I'm going to select my colours. I'm going to work in a limited palette today, and if you're following along, you can do the same. You don't need to have the same colours as me. I really like this kind of turquoise sky here, so I'm going to choose a phthalo blue. And I've got my box of cool blues here. I'm actually quite inclined to use a manganese blue. It's one of my favourite colours, but I'm getting a little bit low on this. I don't want to run out during the course of this painting. Instead, I'll use some phthalo blue. Got some in a little pot here. This is some Jackman's phthalo blue. And you can see it's a really good colour, and we can also water it down quite a lot if we need to. It'll mix lovely greens as well. Even some purples if we add it to our pink. Let's choose a yellow next. It's very important. Now, although some of these photographs have quite a cool yellow, that's unusual. Normally we get much warmer yellows in sunsets, like these ones here. And because I've picked such a turquoise blue, I think I want a nice warm yellow, but I want to avoid anything that's muddy. So I'm not going to use a Naples yellow, and I'm not going to use a yellow ochre. I want a transparent yellow. I'm immediately thinking of this azo yellow. You could also use an Indian yellow, which is a little bit deeper, or any of the warm cadmium yellows. I want to use a pink. Now, you do sometimes get sunsets that have a very scarlet red in them, but I find they're more often seen in warmer countries like Africa. And this is rather a European landscape. I have lots of different choices here. I'm going to avoid my standard favourite pink, which is this quinacridone pink, and choose something a little bit more interesting. I might actually choose this SAA permanent rose. It's a very peachy rose, but I think it would give some interesting effects. It's also an incredibly strong colour, and we can mix it with these other colours to get some purples, some neutrals, and some oranges. Lastly, I'm going to choose one strong staining colour. Now, you really could choose anything here. You could choose a dark brown. You could choose another dark blue like Prussian or Indigo, which I'm tempted to do. You could choose a dark purple. It all depends on the sort of effect that you want. And you could certainly choose a Payne's Grey too. I want something a little stronger. I've got some Prussian here. I'm really thinking of an Indigo. Here we are. I'm going to use this Winsor and Newton Indigo. You see how dark and strong it is. Prussian would be very similar to this, because when I paint those strong silhouetted trees, I want to use a dark. Now I can use this alone. I may even mix it with my pink and get a deep sort of purple. If you find a landscape photograph and it appears to have black in, it almost never works in a painting to use black in a landscape. Although there are some blacks in nature, they don't really come in landscapes. And you'll get a much better effect if you use a limited palette and use a dark from within that palette. As I said, it does not have to be a blue. A grey, a purple, a brown will work equally as well. If you're enjoying this video and we're about halfway through, please do click that like button for me. And don't forget, I have a full range of free and paid courses. You'll find them all linked in the video description. So when you're doing a sunset sky, you want to put the lightest, brightest colours, the yellows and the pinks in first. So that's where we're going to start. I've just realised, of course, saying that I was going to do a low horizon, I've actually ended up with a slightly higher one. However, we've got all of this river here, and this is going to reflect the sky. So we haven't just got this sunset here, we're also going to have our sunset in the river, and we're going to paint them at almost the same time. It's important at this point that your water is very clean, that your colours are ready. I've got my pink here and my yellow. We're going to do this sky in layers, and this is so important. You can't do a complex sky just in one layer. You're going to run out of time and you're going to get a load of drying lines. This paper is new to me, so I'm not sure about absorbency and drying time, but we're just going to go straight in. I'm going to start by wetting the sky with clean water down to the horizon line. And I'm taking it across those distant trees, but not across fields and hills in the foreground. What you're aiming for here is to have the paper wet, but without puddles. Make sure you have a cloth or some paper towel to control the water. Feels quite absorbent. I'm going to add a little more. It'll also depend on the temperature of the room you're working in, how quickly it dries. Doing this in hot weather would require you to work a lot faster. I'm going to start by going in with my yellow. We're always going to go in with the yellows and pinks before we put any blues in, because it's very easy when you go in with the blues just to lose all of the areas of the actual pretty sunset part. We also need to be careful, because if we overlap blue and yellow, we'll end up with green, which isn't ideal in a sunset. I know people sometimes tell me about those rare occasions where you see green in a sky, like the aurora borealis, but those are rare, and generally it's the one colour you want to keep out of your sky. I'm going to go in now with my pinks. I've got a little bleeding upwards here, and that's because the water is a little wetter. If you don't like that, you can just dry your brush and even those areas out. You see how it starts to bleed and spread. So I can rinse and dry my brush, then just lift out a little of the water, and that will stop that happening. I think a small amount of it is nice, but I don't want too much. It can help to kind of angle things in towards your focal point a little. And we're not going to overly fuss over this. I'm just going to add a little bit more yellow down here. Just using my brush to spread along. Try not to introduce puddles or drips. And we're going to leave that alone in order that it has time to dry and we don't continue fussing with it and get a load of drying lines in our sky. What we're going to do now is paint a reflection of this in the water. So I'm coming in now with clean water for the river. And you're looking at getting a sort of a similar effect down here. So again, if I look at what I've got here, I've got some yellow, and then closer into the horizon, I've got some red. You can get away with a lot here. It doesn't have to be an exact reflection of what's going on up the top, just getting an impression of it. I don't want any hard edges around the edge of the river here, at least not yet. So I'm just going to blend with damp brush, add a little more, bearing in mind that this will dry lighter. A little bit more yellow up here, adding some water because it's starting to dry now. Pop a little red in as well. What we need to do now is let this dry entirely before going on to the next stage, which will be adding the blue. Now that layer's dry, let's continue to paint our sky and our river. So we're going to put the blue of the sky in. Let's talk about this paper first of all. Now, it certainly is very nice to paint on. It's fairly smooth paper compared to the one I usually use. And I did put it near the heater to dry because obviously I'm trying to get this video filmed. It feels like it's dry, but there is still some bumping in the paper. And I'll be so interested to see when this is, when the paint is completely finished and it's bone dry, if it does dry completely flat, because I have always maintained that a block is not as good for keeping paper flat as stretching paper, but we shall see, it's certainly a lot better than loose paper. So we're going to start again by re-wetting the sky. Now it's important that we re-wet it in a certain place. I'm not going to start wetting down the bottom because all of this will run, particularly this pink. Now we can take the water across this area, in fact we should, because we don't want a drying line, but what we can do is start up the top on the clean paper and come down. So we don't spread all of this pink and yellow up. As I said, I want to minimize the areas where the blue overlaps, particularly with the yellow, because I don't want too much green in my sky. Now, if we do get green, we can actually adjust that by putting the pink on top, because that will neutralize that out and push it more towards a grey. We also want to keep some light in the sky. It's very easy with a sunset to go dark too early, when really it's only the lights that will glow. The reason a sunset glows is not because of the bright colours, it's because of the darks around it. So we need those lights and those darks around. You see how this is spreading? This means there's too much water here. So we're not going to panic, we're just going to spread and adjust. Your sky always wants to be darker at the top. And that's because aerial perspective will make it look lighter towards the horizon. I'm going to bring this across the top here and then start coming down. So I'm trying to get dark areas at the top, coming lighter as I come down. And I'm also going to leave some areas white if I can. Now see how I've got a little bit of a drying line there. Now I can, of course, swoosh that out with some water. Doesn't look too bad actually, it looks like a cloud. I could choose to leave it, but I'm going to do that. You see how we're starting to get green here, so I'm going to just take the tiniest amount of pink and pop that on top. I say a tiny amount, but look how strong this colour is. And most permanent roses are very strong colours indeed. I'm going to try and leave some white in the sky. This paper is drying quite quickly. Now I'm going to take some colour down the bottom. I'm just going to actually mix a little of the blue and the pink together and get a little bit of some cooler colours down here near the horizon. Some of this will be covered by those sort of distant hills and trees. You see again we've got a hard line here, so rinse, dry my brush. And although I've come onto the fields a little bit here, I could just swoop that out like so. I see that I'm starting to get a drying line up the top here, so I'm just going to even that out. It is sometimes better to re-wet an entire area if it starts to dry. I'm going to take a little bit of water up the top here and again go a tiny bit darker. And I'm going to stop there with the sky. We'll do the river next. Now, if this sky dries too light and I think, oh, I really want a bit more dark in the top, I can always add another layer. Every time you add another layer, there's a risk of drying lines and of blending, but it can be done on some large landscapes. I've done this as many as 10 times. Let's do the water next. So taking exactly the same approach, adding clean water on the whiter areas first. I'm going to be sure to leave some very bright areas of white in the water. And I'm mostly using this picture for inspiration, but not entirely. So again, at what would be reflecting the top of the sky, which is this area down here, I'm going to add some strong darks. Now, this paper is not a hot press paper as far as I know, but I am noticing that it's behaving much like a hot press paper. Hot press papers can be quite tricky to paint on if you're a beginner, simply because the smoothness encourages things to dry in puddles, which can encourage a few drying lines. But really, it's not something you should worry about too much as a beginner if you get a few drying lines. Experience later on will help you to avoid those in future. You certainly shouldn't abandon a painting because of them. It's always good to finish your work. Again, leaving lots of lights here so that when we get the darks around, they should glow up. So this is a two-part landscape tutorial, and you'll find the next part of this tutorial in the next video that I put up. If you come across this video after the initial upload, then I'll link that second video in the video description. Before you leave this video, don't forget to have a look in the video description. There's all sorts of free stuff down there that you can download. You can also find out all about my paid and free courses to help you continue your painting and drawing journey. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We are fully approved by CATS, and I'll put up another video all about landscape painting that you might like to watch right now.